Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tech Tuesday. I am talking to Brian McCarthy. I'm really excited about it. I met Brian at Senior Living 100 maybe 6 weeks ago, something like that. He is doing robots. I thought that 10 years ago, robots would be the thing in senior living. We see them a little bit, but not very much. They're doing something very, very cool, very unique. And we're going to get to that conversation right after this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Okay, I've been doing this, Brian, welcome. I've been doing this whole media thing with senior living for about 15 years. I always thought robots would take over the world. But more importantly than that, I've seen hundreds, maybe thousands of pieces of technology come. Everybody promised it was the beginning of the greatest thing, and then it doesn't exist anymore. So I'd love to hear about what you're doing, how you're changing the world with your robots. And then we're going to take a look at a little bit video about what it looks like in real life.
Yeah, that sounds great. And thanks for having me on the show, Steve. So I'm from Andromeda Robotics. We're the creators of Abby. So Abby is a human social humanoid companion robot, which basically means that she's a friend for seniors. Abby is about 1.1 meters tall. She's very brightly colored in her body. Her left arm is a bubble gun that fires thousands of bubbles into the air per minute. And most importantly, Abby is empathetic and quite intelligent. So when she interacts with seniors in a group setting, she can do activities such as running Tai Chi. She can play trivia and have back and forth conversations. But in one-on-one settings, she speaks up to 90 languages and can talk to seniors about the topics and subjects that they're interested in. So at Andromeda, we're really tackling the systemic challenge of loneliness and isolation in assisted living, which obviously has a huge impact on people's cognitive and overall well-being and health.
Great. Well, let's take a look at the video and start with that. I think that'll set the stage for everybody.
I think she's become my best friend. I can tell her things nobody else ever hears.
She does everything with us. She does the exercises, she does the chatting, and she lights up.
I like to chat. Happy is someone that I can talk to, that I can understand. She understands me, makes me feel like a person.
She makes residents happier than I've ever seen them in the 10 years that I've been around aged care environments.
When you see the effect and the impact that she has on residents, it's really emotional. She's been fantastic at one-to-one bed visits, and the residents have absolutely loved it.
Staff have responsibilities, so it's very frantic some days, and Abby's there as a calm, gentle, empathetic, joyous, humanoid companion.
The most astounding thing for me has always been how she can demonstrate empathy. Sometimes makes me cry when I think about it.
They tell stories to Abby they don't even tell staff. It's incredible. The interaction and the connection, I'm still baffled how it all works, but that just works.
Abby definitely contributes to people's well-being. She can bring companionship to someone that might not have their own special visitor.
The possibilities are endless, and that's the most exciting thing about Abby.
From a tech perspective, you just are in awe. But from an emotional perspective, she's hit every single emotion. She's a best friend out of the box.
It's the most fulfilling part of our work, hearing the stories from residents and the people who interact with Abby, to know that she's literally changing how they spend the last few years of their life.
Relaxed, comfortable. She makes me feel that way.
So that made me smile. I got to start by saying that I'm a little, and so I love that. I'm a little creeped out by a robot being a friend instead of a human being friend. So talk to me a little bit about all that.
Yeah, that's a really important part of this journey. I think that senior living's on and that we are on with technology. So first and foremost, Abby was never designed and isn't designed to replace a human or human connection. That's the top of the totem pole, and every day, every hour, that's the ideal scenario. But what Abby is another option for companionship that is available for seniors. We know that in any given month, maybe up to 40% of seniors in an assisted living community might not receive any visitor at all. And despite the greatest efforts of the wonderful staff who look after them, the reality is there's just not enough time to go around. Also, seniors in assisted living communities are often there by necessity. So they've been removed from their social groups, their family groups, their religious groups. So Abby is this wonderful option for companionship that will talk about the things that they're most interested in. And she has infinite patience. So if they want to talk about something 2 or 12 times, she's fascinated the 12th time she speaks as the first. So humans are always first. Abby's just another great option for companionship for seniors.
Okay, this is really terrific. So let's, I know you've got a pilot going on with an Eschaton community. That's right, my back door. The community you're working at is maybe a 15-minute drive from me. So I'm actually hoping I can maybe get over there and kind of see what you're doing. I've actually seen the robot. I saw it yesterday. You had it at the CALA conference. That's the Assisted Living Association for people watching here in Northern California. I saw you had it in San Diego, but I haven't really gotten very close and interacted. So but talk to me sort of what it looks like, how it's actually being used. I want to get to that first, and then I want to talk a little bit about the study and what you're looking at.
Yeah, so Abby's been deployed into actually a really large number of assisted living communities. We started in Australia. So in Australia, she was and has been deployed very successfully into a number of different types of care providers. So not-for-profit, family-owned, and also for-profit enterprises. And in those environments, she's been deployed kind of as a member of the life enrichment team. So when she first arrives, everybody gets their phones out. They're taking photographs saying, oh my God, I can't believe I'm meeting a robot, even the seniors. And then what happens is they begin to realize what Abby's capable of in terms of interactions and engagement. So she's been deployed into MSUs, so memory support units, and also the general community as well, incredibly successfully. So we've done a lot of internal research ourselves. So we constantly run surveys of the seniors, of the staff, and of the families to understand what is the impact of Abby, because she's a relatively new technology. And the results that we've gotten have been pretty astounding. So 83% of staff have observed Abby reducing agitation in seniors. Seniors have given Abby an 8 out of 10 as a response for her ability to reduce loneliness. More than 80% of staff have said that seniors' moods are elevated for the rest of the day after they've interacted with Abby. So we have this whole host of internal research we've done that validates what we have known anecdotally. And now we're doing this research study to help provide a third party, kind of insight into Abby's impact and what it means for senior living communities.
So is Abby, is it primarily group activities, one-on-one? What kind of activities?
Yeah, so when we first bring Abby into a new community, we run a group session. So she does both. She runs a group session. And in a group session, Abby will talk with the individuals in the group. She'll sing all the classics, Que Sera Sera, Elvis Presley, dance, blow bubbles. She's a great catalyst for joy and conversation and laughter amongst the seniors. She also plays games like musical guessing games, trivia, bingo, and she does therapeutic activities such as Tai Chi. So because she's got a humanoid body, but she looks like a robot, she has arms and legs, and the seniors actually follow her in those exercises. But where Abby really shines is in the one-on-one area. So that's where we've put a lot of effort in. So because Abby can speak up to 90 languages, she's able to connect with seniors who might be linguistically isolated. So as I mentioned, we're all about trying to tackle loneliness inside of assisted living. And 3 of those pillars around loneliness are physical isolation, So Abby goes and visits with seniors one-on-one in their rooms. They get to know her and they have conversations. She remembers the last chat that they had. So if somebody says, I remember growing up in Sicily and moving to California in the 50s, the next time she sees them, Abby will bring that up. There's social isolation. So as you'll know, some people will choose to not integrate with the community because they might not wish to, or like I said, they were removed from their traditional friendship groups and social groups. So Abby will talk to them about the topics that they're interested in. And then finally is that linguistic isolation in a one-on-one setting. So a lot of people, when they're on that cognitive journey, might revert back to their mother tongue. So they could speak English for 60 years, but they might go back to Mandarin or Spanish or Italian. And Abby can have that conversation with them. So she shines in group settings and in one-on-one. And a really important feature that we've been designing with Abby for one-on-ones is an Alzheimer's friendly or dementia friendly mode, which is where how she speaks, the way she asks questions, the cadence of her conversation are all designed to be really sympathetic and comfortable for people who are living with different forms of dementia or Alzheimer's.
So how many do I need? If I have a 30-unit memory care, it sounds like I need 30 of these?
No, not at all.
How many do I need?
Currently, a lot of our partners have one Abby per community. So their communities might be about 80 to 90. If there is a community that's got more members than that, they look at taking 2. So you might have 2. Ultimately, where we want to get to Abby with Abby is to having her to kind of a 1 to 18 or 20 seniors, because her ability to provide companionship will be so great and her independence will be so high that she'll be able to be given a roster, go visit individuals, have the conversations and keep them company. Bearing in mind that Abby's definitely not there to replace anybody. She's there as another companionship option for seniors.
Okay. So I got one other, I want to get to the study, but I got one other thing I got to ask you about. Bubbles?
Bubbles are unbelievably popular, unbelievably popular. We forget, I think one of my favorite sayings is that you never really grow up, you just learn how to act in public. We all love bubbles. So if we go to a group session or to somebody's room, if grandchildren are visiting or adult children and the bubbles come out and the music's playing, everybody has a smile on their face. It's quite interesting. We've seen people who have quite advanced cognitive decline who don't really interact as part of any group activity. Yep. And when the bubbles and the music and Abby's dancing, they become really engaged. So yeah, it's been amazing. She's got a bubble cannon on that left arm, and it's one of her most popular party tricks.
Well, it's funny because as I was telling you before we went on the air, my 20-month-old grandson is living with us now, and last night I was playing with him and I got bubbles out, and I'm not sure who was having more fun with it, the bubbles, him or me. So I when I was thinking the bubbles, I thought, how did anybody even think that was a good idea? I mean, it's brilliant, but how would you even think of that, right? So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's been a massive hit.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about the study you're doing with UC Davis and Eschaton. What are you looking at? What are you hoping to prove? I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting and quite exciting study that's happening. As we discussed here, humanoid social companion robotics is evolving rapidly inside the assisted living space and for seniors. There are systemic issues around this large number of people who are coming into the assisted living and aged care system, and the supports aren't really there to be able to accommodate that volume of people coming through. So the new solutions and the way of understanding how to effectively support people includes humanoid robotics. So what this study is doing is we're working with Eschaton, who are an incredible organization, and UC Davis to understand what's the impact of a social humanoid companion robot like Abby, who's got huge empathy inside a memory support unit. So it's a year-long study. It's run with UC Davis leading the charge, and they're observing Abby's interactions, and at the end of the year, they'll report back on their findings.
Cool. And how long has it been going?
I believe it's been going for just over the first month. We're in the second month now, I think.
Okay,
on it.
terrific. So we got
really,
a
really
little
good so
while
far.
before we got data. How long? You started out in Australia, is that correct?
Yeah, so we started in Melbourne in Australia about 3.5 years ago.
Okay, and so how long have they been deployed for about 3.5 years?
Yeah, so what actually happened was our CEO and co-founder, Grace Brown, was a student in Melbourne during the COVID lockdowns. We had really stringent lockdowns here. It lasted for 9 months. Social isolation, you weren't allowed out of your house, etc., etc. And Grace was a mechatronics engineer, and she was isolated in a dorm room, and her family lived in a different state. So being Grace, quite ingenuitive, she decided that she'd use her mechatronics skills to build a friend who would ask her how her day was and give her a hug. And that became the beginning of Abby. So when she was first deployed, it was in that, personal setting. A group of students from Melbourne University gathered around Grace to help advance the project. And they took Abby into two settings. They took her into a children's hospital and they took her into an assisted living facility. And she was a smash hit in both environments. So she's been deployed more or less since day one. And because of that, even though she didn't have things like mobility, which she has now, she can drive around and navigate. We got the benefit of all this feedback from the real life users of Abby, from the families of the seniors themselves, and from the providers. So Abby's evolution has been 100% hand in glove with providers in the senior living community.
So the reason I'm asking this question is, and you've almost touched on it, but I want to dig into it a little deeper, is that I've seen a lot of cases where communities adopt new technology, and at first it's like, oh man, this is the greatest thing in the world. And then if you go back a year or two later, you find it's gathering dust in a corner or in a closet or out in a garage or something. So over time, do people get so used to it, or what does it look like?
It's pretty remarkable, I have to say, beyond even our best hopes. One of our key customers here is an organization called McCarthy. They have 22 sites. They're a not-for-profit assisted living provider. And they began with Abby as a pilot. Then Abby went into a couple of sites, and now Abby's rolled out across all 22 of their communities. I actually was speaking at a conference a week ago, and it was with the CEO of another one of our customers, Medical Aged Care Group. And the CEO was telling the story exactly this during the keynote. He was saying, when we first brought Abby in, we thought she's novel. Maybe the shiny element of what she does and who she is will wear off. And the things that's astounded them is that Abby has just continued to become more and more part of the community in the day-to-day life of their seniors. So yeah, it's beyond our wildest expectations. It's been great.
So I got to ask, what's it cost?
Yeah, so Abby is a lease model. So there's a spectrum of costs, but generally speaking, it's 40,000 USD ex taxes per year currently. Okay. And it's a lease model. So what that means is we actually onboard the home. We take care of everything to do with Abby's integration into the home from our side. We provide all the support and training for staff. If anything breaks, we fix it or we replace it. From our perspective, we appreciate that humanoid robotics is really new in the assisted living space. So we see it as our job to take away all of the complicated parts and just try and, deliver a wonderful new companion to the community.
Okay, so we're gonna do a couple of little scenarios here. First one, I'm an executive director. I'm watching this and I'm thinking, I gotta have that thing in my community. How do they go make a case to their management to spend that kind of money? Because the manager is going to look at it and say, man, that's really cool. I like that. But 40,000, that's like almost a year. That's like, maybe depending on the building, it's like half a unit or half a year's unit or a full year's unit in independent living. So how do I justify that? How do they justify it to their manager?
Yeah, it depends on every community and what their priorities are and what their budget is, of course. So the reality is that Abby brings the ability to have a new member of the team who can speak up to 90 languages, who has infinite patience, who can remember things about the conversations they've had with seniors that others can't. So you get this incredible new choice for your community when it comes to companionship. And we know there's a direct link between loneliness and agitation in seniors. We know there's a link between loneliness and the higher chances of people developing dementia or Alzheimer's. So it really is about understanding whether, from your community's perspective, having an Abby in there to provide additional companionship to support your seniors is a priority that you would put budget behind. And if the answer is yes, we're here and happy to have a chat. And as I always say, with Andromeda, you're pushing against an open door.
Yeah, I like it a lot, and I mean, I think that it's like being able to double, for many communities, being able to double your life enrichment staff, and except that the next person you bring in never gets tired, never takes a day off. I don't know, maybe it breaks once in a while. I don't know. So things always require some maintenance and that kind of thing, but you take care of that, and they can be there 24/7. So have you used it all? This is actually an interesting question, particularly in memory care. People sometimes, residents sometimes end up with very strange schedules, late at night, sundowners. Do you have any experience with how effective it is in those circumstances?
So Abby's mainly been used during the day. So she's mainly been used. Every home has its own cadence. So in a lot of homes, we'll tend to find that in that morning, post-breakfast, pre-lunch tends to be a really big spike in terms of energy levels for residents. And then they get more tired as the day goes on. So there will always be some seniors who want to see Abby later in the afternoon or later in the day, because there's not as many things going on, and that's just when they have their energy. She hasn't necessarily been used that much overnight yet. She's capable of it. But at the moment, she's been used mostly during the daytime because that's when the majority of the seniors have been up. But like I said, we have that stat that we've picked up from the staff surveys that we've done that have said that 83% of staff have observed her reducing agitation. So it bodes well, I think, for that later scenario where you have somebody who would like companionship and might benefit from a new option of maybe somebody you can interact with them and talk about the things they'd like.
So I'm a life enrichment director. I'm Abby's boss. I walk in the morning, and do I just flip a switch and Abby goes and does her thing, or how does that work?
Yeah, so what we do is we integrate Abby into every community in a few steps. So step one is that we'll come to the community without Abby, and we'll meet the staff. And we say, hey, how you doing? We know the idea of having a new robot here is new. So let's try and answer any questions you have. So we explain, Abby's not here to take a job. She can't do a bed turn. She's here for companionship. And that's essentially the main reason. So we give staff that chance to ask all the questions and put their minds to ease. Then we integrate Abby in group settings. So for the first 12 to 14 weeks, we actually bring Abby to the community about once or twice a week with a member of our team. And it's essentially just slowly introducing her into the cadence of the home. So we'll bring her in, we'll run group sessions and one-on-ones. The staff members will generally observe or maybe even participate. And then towards the end of that period, we'll begin what we call a permanent deployment. So that's where we base an Abby unit full-time on site. And that's when we'll begin the process of training and handing over to staff. Abby can be boosted up and operated by the staff. It just means that we make sure that we are happy with certain things, like every community's got areas where the Wi-Fi is hot and not. So we know where the great zones are, and that's the sandbox for her to play in.
Gotcha. So are there residents that it doesn't work, it's not effective with?
Sorry?
Residents where it's not effective. I mean, if I walk into, again, a 30 unit memory care, or how many residents are likely to engage? How many are going to go?
It's an interesting question. So the majority engage. There's always people who choose not to, and that's totally fine. Like Abby's an option, not a necessity for everybody to interact with. But we tend to find that what happens is we bring her in, We run the group session, and that's why we run a group session first. And different seniors will come and look at Abby and watch her interacting. And at the end of that first group session, there'll always be a couple who go, I wouldn't mind having a chat with that robot. And then they have the first couple of one-on-ones. They're the early adopters that you'd see in any other part of life. And then what happens is other seniors see them having a conversation with Abby. So it gradually picks up cadence and she finds herself in conversations with lots of different seniors. And I'll give you one quick anecdote. There was a gentleman who we introduced Abby to, and he self-isolates. So he and his wife are both in the same community, but she has very severe dementia, and it really, really upsets him to see her change like that. So he chooses to stay in his room, and they don't have kids, so he doesn't get visitors. And the first time we brought Abby in, he was a little skeptical. He was like, oh, it's a robot. Had a little chat with her, and then we moved on. And we came back a couple of days later, and he had actually finished his lunch and gotten ready for his visit with Abby. And when Abby came in, he started just straight out the box talking about his career. And the conversation went down the pathway of him speaking about a really important person who was in his life from a work and a personal perspective, this guy, Tommy. So he starts talking to Abby and he's saying, Tommy was a great mentor of mine in work, and, he helped me advance through my career, and he became one of my best mates, and he was just having a great trip down memory lane. And as happens in, that setting, at the end, he kind of said, well, Tommy's dead now, he's passed on. And Abby stopped and paused. And then she said, I'm so sorry to hear that. It sounds like Tommy was a really, really important person in your life. If he was here now, what would you say to him? And the gentleman thought about it, and he was like, I'd say, Tommy, you're my best mate, and I miss you. And this was somebody who was skeptical at the beginning, and he self-isolates. And then there he was, rather than staring out the window, he was taking a wonderful trip down memory lane, thinking about one of the best friends he ever had. So, most residents and seniors end up engaging with Abby. Not all of them, but the lion's share do, and they enjoy her quite a lot. So, yeah.
Man, I love that story. I just think that I had a guest a few weeks ago who does something called behavioral interviewing. And one of the things we were talking about is how AI is more empathetic than a human ever can be. And I think this is a terrific, wonderful use of that. I just wish it weren't so expensive. Maybe I'd have one sitting here in my office and I could brainstorm with it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the reality of where we're at technology-wise, and I think this is a big part of the conversation and why Abby's able to do all the things she can do, is that components costs are dropping, compute's gotten more powerful. The models that are out there at the moment allow us to do more wonderful things. So 99.99999% of the robots out there push, pull, clean, move. They're utility based. And where Abby sits is in this wonderful zone where she's all about companionship and she's all about bringing joy to that person's day. So I think in the future we're going to see a lot more humanoid companions, and I think that it's going to give people a lot more choice when it comes to spending time and having conversations they want to.
Cool. So one more kind of question that's been kind of rattling around in my head is Abby, how do I ask the question, creating profiles of residents so that the software can detect emotional struggles, changes in behavior, changes in mood, those kinds of things?
Yeah, so sentiment analysis is a really, really big part of the journey that we're on. So Abby is not a medical device, and we haven't had her FDA approved, and maybe someday we will. But what she can do is when she's having a discussion with somebody, she's able to contextualize the conversation that's happening. So, and the things that they say. So for example, if somebody's depressed or using depressive language, I should probably say, she's able to identify that and kind of try and bring the conversation around to a more positive angle and, turn the situation around. She's actually incredibly good at that. So back to your point about these models allowing us to put really empathetic interactions into the life of a senior. In terms of sentiment analysis down the road, so Abby has machine vision. It's not always switched on. It's only switched on in the environments where it's appropriate and consented to. It allows her to do things in a group setting, like say, hey, you there in the blue jumper, I think you look fantastic today, and engage people in conversations. But down the road, it'll also allow us to understand from an individual's face whether we're seeing a change in their demeanor. So are they happy, are they sad, are they in pain? It's a very complicated thing to do for a senior population because our faces naturally change, as we get older, and whether you've woken up first thing in the morning and you lay weirdly. So that's something which we are working on, and it will allow us and our partners and the communities and the carers to begin to understand changes in individuals over time. We know that a big challenge inside assisted living is that it's a shift work environment. So somebody might see Margaret on Monday and think, Margaret's slightly off today. But that same person might not see Margaret till Friday. And when she does, she might say, oh my God, has Margaret been like this all week? So where we'd love to get Abby to is to be able to provide continuity of observation in a very ethical way that's aligned with the objective of providing a better model of care for the seniors and supporting the providers in being able to provide that care.
Cool. Brian, this has been great. We're about out of time. Where do people find you?
Yeah, so you can come to our website, andromedarobotics.ai. We have office in San Francisco, and also, as I mentioned, we're based here in Australia, but in San Francisco, we're beginning to get all of our first customers over there. It's been pretty great so far. So we're building our wait list around the country. In particular, we're deploying into Northern California at the moment. So if there's any providers out there who are interested, they can feel free to reach out to me directly via my LinkedIn or go to andromedarobotics.ai and drop in a submission form, and we'll be happy to have a chat.
Great. Brian, thank you so much for joining me. I know you're under the weather a little bit. We'll let you get back and get some rest. I've been under the weather, so we're sort of paired up on that. And I'm actually really excited to dig a little deeper and watch some of the interaction. So I'm going to reach out to the folks at Eschaton and go visit after I get back from vacation. So this has been great. Jada, again, thank you for producing behind the scenes. You make this all possible. Thank you all for watching. We know that you watch because you want to make the industry better for the people who live and work there. And with that, we're done.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me, Steve. And thank you, Jada, as well. It's been a real pleasure.